The sun rose gently over the narrow strip of rocky earth that marked the contested border between Dresher and Miravia. Once riddled with landmines and the weight of countless forgotten bodies, the land had become something else over the years. Not peaceful, exactly, but quiet. Watchtowers still stood. Guns were still loaded. Orders were still given. But between those watchtowers, right at the center of a flat boulder that time and tension had worn smooth, two soldiers sat every morning, every afternoon. And sometimes, when the moon was full and sleep was elusive, even in the dead of night. They were not just any soldiers. Both were respected field officers, mid-ranking captains entrusted with managing their respective sectors, calm under pressure, sharp-eyed, experienced, the kind of men whose subordinates watched closely, not just for orders, but for cues on how to feel, how to react. And yet, here they sat, not in meetings or patrols, but across from each other at a chessboard. Rilan, from the Dresher Defense Forces, always did everything in his power to play as white, as he disliked having a move disadvantage in the opening. His eyes were steady, gray like fog over mountain ranges, his manner restrained. He had a wiry frame, scars on his knuckles from years of boxing before the army, and a habit of tapping his pawn before moving it. Varek, from the Maravian border guard, always used to memorize new opening moves and traps to trick his opponent very early in the game. Broader in frame, with a mop of dark hair and warm hazel eyes that crinkled when he smiled, he used to hum little tunes during endgames, especially if he was ahead on material. The first few games, years ago, were silent. They used hand gestures, fumbling attempts at the other's language, and the universal language of chess. Wins and losses passed without fanfare, just a nod, a glance, maybe a smirk. But as the games continued, hundreds, then thousands, so did the conversations. The game became a ritual, a daily act of quiet defiance against history. Varek had learned that Rilan's father was a math teacher, that his sister wrote poetry about rivers. Rilan knew that Varek's mother cooked stews that could make your eyes water from flavor, and that he had once dreamt of being a musician. They exchanged phrases, invented slang between languages, and eventually spoke with the effortless shorthand of comrades. Every move on the board spoke its own language. A sacrificed knight might mean, "I'm afraid today." A sudden queenside castle. I dreamt of peace. And over time, these gestures gave way to real and deep conversations about family, regrets, dreams, and about the senseless weight of the uniforms they wore. They both hoped, quietly but fiercely, for a day when a child from Dresher could walk into Miravia without a checkpoint. When Varek could visit Rilan's family orchard. When the only battles between their peoples would be fought with bishops and pawns. Then, the world cracked open. They were mid-game, a taut Sicilian, pieces already locked in delicate tension, when the distant radio on Varek's belt sputtered to life. The static voice was loud, panicked, unfamiliar. Ryland's side had a similar transmission, blaring from his comms unit. Words in both languages, sharp, urgent. Around them, soldiers from both factions stood watching their commanders play, silent and tense, as if the outcome on the board might somehow mirror the one beyond it. Code red. Engagement status has changed. War declaration confirmed. Border units, prepare to engage. The two of them froze. Neither touched the chessboard. Around them, the soldiers stood still as stone, eyes fixed not on the comms, but on their captains, waiting to see what they would do. Varek's hand trembled, as he reached for the volume knob, turning the voice down to a whisper. Rilan looked up, straight into his eyes. The fog in his gaze was gone. Only stark clarity remained. War. Again. It didn't feel real. The wind still rustled the grass. The sun still warmed their backs. The knight on d5 still threatened the queen. But everything had changed. Rilan stood first, slowly. Not as a soldier, as a friend, as something more. His voice cracked as he said simply, "No." Varek blinked, not understanding, or not wanting to. "I won't," Rilan continued, his voice firmer. "Not to you. I won't raise a weapon to you." Varek looked away, then down at the board. Their pieces were frozen mid-battle. So symbolic, it almost hurt. He whispered, "What do we do now?" The sound of helicopters in the distance answered for them. The thudding rhythm of chaos drawing closer. Their commanders would come. Orders would come. And this place, their quiet island of rooks and pawns and shared dreams, would be overrun with war again. They stared at each other, hearts pounding. Were they friends? Enemies? Would they have to run? Fight? Hide? Could friendship survive a war declared by others, against their will? Neither moved. The chessboard between them, half played, unresolved, was suddenly more than a game. It was a line neither wanted to cross. One move could change everything.